Hello, and welcome to another episode of Unmute, the well-being podcast brought to you by We Care. All episodes streamed on Spotify and internally via Core and Concentrix University for our game changers. Welcome, everyone, to the Unmute podcast. This is a special episode as part of our mini-series, which is part of We Care Week. My name's Amanda Graci, and I'm the Global Wellbeing Program Manager here at Concentrix. I am joined by my two lovely colleagues, Bahar Ozkan, who is our Senior Director of Global Wellbeing, and Aimee Carton, who is our Head of Innovation and Research. Welcome, ladies. Thanks for joining today.
Good to be here.
Excited to be here.
Me too. Well, let's jump into it. We have a few questions from our game changers across the globe. So we went out to our organization and asked all of you to submit the questions that you wanted us to answer. So we will go around taking some time to answer your questions. So I will kick off the first question. How could we ease functional anxiety in order to calm our minds, our heartbeat rates, and to feel like we're really resting both mentally and physically? Some useful tips and tricks, even real examples that helped other game changers, would be appreciated.
Cool. I can jump in really quick.
I was just about to say, I can see you getting excited to answer this one.
Definitely, that's very close to my heart because anxiety is very common in different ages, different groups, and it's super common issue. And we should destigmatizing it, but at the same time, sharing some resources and tools how we can manage it. Right? It's definitely manageable, but it's an overall approach we need to put in place. It's a long term plan, and it's an individualized plan is needed. Everybody is different, unique. The way their brain functions are different. So I'm not going to actually say one thing would work for everyone, but my recommendation would be knowing yourself, your body, your reactions, your coping mechanisms individually very well, and try to focus on developing strategies, even day to day, short term and long term strategies. And it can contain good sleep. Sleep is definitely an antioxidant for anxiety. It is boundaries, I would say, because anxiety would develop when we have lack of boundaries and having a yes mentality to everything to try to fulfill everybody's needs and life's expectations. It is really driving us and our brains overloaded. And the third one would be, it's a practical tool that usually works for everyone. It's using your senses and bringing back to yourself to the current moment, because anxiety is usually occur when we think about future, and it's so hard to drag ourselves back to the current moment. It is possible if you use our senses. So I would suggest everyone to touch to the objects or environment that they're in and around them. It could be a mug, it could be maybe a computer, it could be a screen, or even the texture of their t-shirt or an outfit, and use the senses to bring your feelings and attention to the present moment to kind of teach your brain that you are here, you are safe, but you are thinking about future doesn't have to be realistic and needs to make you more anxious. So that's my 3-step approach to anxiety.
What about when it comes to the workplace? So, what are the key strategies to promote workplace well-being while you're optimizing everything else that you have to do? So, your task management and your responsiveness to urgent situations without, compromising on the mental and physical health of employees.
All right, go on, take it off.
Really? Okay. It's a huge topic. It's really nearly impossible to, summarize it in few sentences. But I would say I'll start with key themes that I think that applies to everywhere at work. One is not feeling ashamed of asking support and help. It applies to day-to-day job and also mental health needs or even physical needs. But having a circle of network at work that you trust and you feel genuine with is the key, because it could be maybe a boundary issue, workload issue. It could be maybe an uncontrollable stress, like an integration we've been through as a company, a lot throw on our shoulders, right? So it's all about asking for help and being open to share what you are going through. So this is one, developing a support system, I would say. It's within the team that you work in, having a trusting relationship with your manager. And if you recognize the trust psychological safety or the relationship is not there, I think putting some effort and investment to tackle with that and spend some time on how can I resolve this issue and develop more psych safety in my workplace. Should I get a mentor? Should I maybe ask for help? Should I talk to my people solutions or human resources partner? How can I learn more to tackle with relationship issues that I'm going through so that in the future I can get more support from? So that's key, and it's should be embedded everywhere. And the second one is, I think, the way we behave at life and in our day-to-day lives with our families and everywhere reflects at work too. So if we are overachievers everywhere, we are overachievers at work too. If we are not setting right boundaries to our families, friends, or whatever coming in, it applies to work too. I think knowing yourself better will make you having better boundaries, better relationships at work. So it's a kind of a holistic approach. So I would definitely suggest, especially ones who are experiencing more anxiety, catastrophe, or anything at work, maybe getting a therapy, maybe getting a consultation from a third party objective eye would help you to develop more skills and understanding yourself at work better. So that's what I want to highlight here, because I want to promote employee assistance program, our benefits everywhere in every location, but we don't know what they are and how we can leverage them. I think these are the resources can boost your productivity at the same time helping you to get to know who you are better. So I highly, highly encourage everyone to leverage these assistance programs, therapy, counseling, wherever you are in the world. And the third one would be, I think, in terms of day to day, optimizing well-being at workplace awareness, like get to know who are my teams responsible for well-being in that location on my side within my team. Are there anyone who are willing to work with me, maybe to learn and gain more resources around well-being? I think asking more questions: who is responsible, how can I find these resources, talk to my people solutions partner, my manager, to ask more questions about how can I learn more about well-being so that I can maybe take more breaks, I can learn more skill set, I can join events and activities. So it's a two-way road, getting encouragement from resources, but also encouraging others to boost engagement around well-being. So playing a role around as a receiver and giver at workplace around the well-being opportunities is the key. I'm gonna wrap
And
up.
I think that encouragement piece too, especially if you're a leader, creating that encouragement within your team and creating that culture of well-being by bringing well-being into the conversation. We had a discussion yesterday with a lot of our leaders around having difficult conversations, and one of the main things we talked about was to not be afraid to have those conversations, not be afraid to bring well-being up or ask people how they're doing, and if they say fine, peel back the onion and discover more about what does fine actually mean. And also, as a leader, ensuring that you are aware of the resources that are available to your team, that you know the events that are happening, that you also know, your well-being representatives, your people solutions partners, so you can promote that culture. And when people come to you, when your team comes to you, you know what's available, but also so you can encourage them to get involved and make that even something that you do together as a team. And that will continue to build on that culture of well-being and create that safe environment where people feel vulnerable enough to come and have a conversation or to maybe say that they're not okay.
Say
I,
something if you see something, right?
Exactly. I love that.
I love this topic in general. You both know that this is absolutely one of my favorite topics because I think, and honestly, I think it stems from my autism, where I would love if all of us were robots and A, B, C, like it was so simple. Everything was simple because I find people very complex and confusing, and I myself am complex and confusing. And I think that's just the fundamental point about humanity and people in general and teams. Whether you're in work or you're outside of work or in your own personal lives, none of us are robots. None of us are machines. And Bahar, I think you did a really good job there of detailing each of the elements of how to do that. But I think recognizing simply that we are all people is just so important as part of the conversation. And it's kind of an interesting one because another question we received was about maybe having a customer or a manager or someone, scold you or react to you or not want to listen to you. And I myself really struggle with that. If I get any sense of rejection, I like completely shut down. So I'm curious how you guys think of that, because if you're having a team dynamic and say there's one person causing issues, or there's someone dealing with a bad customer or a bad manager, or something happened, what can you do to help that team member? What can you do to support them? Or what can individuals do when they're like me, when they struggle with rejection or something like that happens?
That's one topic we spend a lot of time brainstorming and drive change in our organization. Because how I can describe it is, well-being doesn't mean that we should be nice and fluffy all the time. And, it's just not about bypassing or brushing what we have seen. It's about genuine feedback. It's all about compassionate conversation. So Amanda mentioned that previously very well, like manager's role here in order to understand and digging in what's going on, what's the root cause of the other person going through. So I would say it's really important to all of us to know what are the skill sets and the behaviors as a leader, as a peer, as a manager, or as a reportee. Doesn't matter what our title is. What is the right behavior to drive well-being, openness, transparency, vulnerability, and support in our organization? And these skills, when we look at different skills and when we look at the feedback we collected, I think bottom line is really compassionate, honest feedback, and giving opportunity to the others to grow certain areas that they are having weaknesses.
Aimee, you mentioned sometimes as well, we can have that pressure on ourselves, or if something happens or something goes wrong, we can look down upon ourselves. So I think it's also important that we have that consistency of care for us. And I know for me personally, that's something that I struggle with. If I do something wrong, or if I present something, my brain immediately goes, oh, how can I have done that better? What did I do wrong? And just giving yourself the time and the space and focusing on the positive outcomes, or also focusing on the growth opportunities. Every situation there is an opportunity to learn from. It might be really hard to see that in the moment, but if you give yourself the time, the space, and the care, I think that can really help.
I like that. It's kind of like slowing down, focus in on yourself, and separate yourself from the situation. Because I also think sometimes when, let's say, manager or colleague or customer, or there's someone putting you in an awkward position or making you feel in that way, sometimes it's not about you, it's about them. And I think kind of, Bahar, I really liked what you're saying about it. The well-being is sometimes light and fluffy, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's about stepping back and saying, this isn't necessarily to do with me. And I think that's something that we have to remember, that, the other day I was experiencing just that, where someone was reacting to a situation, and looking back on it, the reaction was not to the right level. It was not appropriate to the situation, but maybe there was something going on in their life where the person who was reacting, what was going on for them to have them kind of be that argumentative, or to be in that kind of fight or flight mode, and they chose to fight. And I always wonder that, like, what is it about that kind of moment that triggers someone like that, but to remember that it isn't on me, that it isn't necessarily there for me. And I like that, Amanda, that you're saying kind of step back and reflect on your own work or your own experience, and kind of remember that. It's an interesting one.
Because at the end of the day, that's really what you can control as well. You can't control how others behave, but you can control your own.
I was waiting for Bahar. Where's your control the controllables and ignore the rest statement? This is Bahar's favorite line.
I stole it.
Also, yeah. Thank you. Great questions. I loved all of the questions raised. So beautiful.
I know.
So many great questions. Join us again next week for another episode where we unmute the conversation around mental health.